Please subscribe, like, and share. It really helps us out. And of course, if you have any questions, comment below, and we will answer you as soon as we can. Welcome to another video in our series on IGCSE Economics. This is Unit 8, Part 1. In today's lesson, we will be learning about international trade and specialization. If you haven't seen our previous videos, click on the card above. Firstly, what is globalization? The increasing social, technological, political, and economic interdependence and interaction between people, firms, and entire economies around the world through increasing ease of travel, growing international trade in an increasing variety of goods and services, increasing opportunities for firms to buy and sell products in any country in the world, increasing opportunities for labor and capital to move anywhere in the world, the growth of global financial markets.
Now, let's talk about international specialization. Some examples of international specialization are USA's aircraft, Spanish olive oil, Italian shoes. Economies specialize in the production of those goods and services they are best able to produce because they have the natural, human, or man-made resources to do so. This graph shows the top 10 exporters of physical goods. This gives us an idea of how important trade is for some countries. Specialization allows an economy to produce a greater volume of their goods and services more efficiently. It, therefore, increases output, incomes, and living standards. Economies then trade with each other to obtain the other goods and services they need and want.
One concept we have to be familiar with is absolute and comparative advantage. A country has an absolute advantage in the production of a product when it can produce that product at a much lower cost per unit than any other country is able to. In this example, country A can produce a good at an average cost of $100. But, country B produces it at an average cost of $130. Country A is said to have an absolute advantage. A country has a comparative advantage in the production of a product relative to other countries when its opportunity cost of producing that product is lower than in any other country. In this example, country X has to give up 4,000 televisions to produce 100 cars. But country Y has to give up 7,000 televisions to produce 100 cars. Clearly, country X would be better to produce cars and sell them to country Y for televisions. Country X is said to have a comparative advantage.
So, what are the gains from free trade? International trade involves the movement and exchange of physical goods such as materials, component parts, equipment, and finished products as well as services, ideas, money, and labor, across international borders. Some of the arguments for free trade are as follows. It allows countries to benefit from specialization. They can produce what they are best able to and then trade their surplus. It increases consumer choice. Consumers can enjoy a greater variety of goods and services from across the world. It increases competition and efficiency. Firms must improve their costs and product quality to compete with overseas producers. It creates additional business and employment opportunities. New and existing firms can expand their sales to growing consumer markets overseas. It allows firms to access the best workforces, materials, and technologies from anywhere in the world.
But, what are the arguments against uncontrolled trade? Why would you want to control trade? Trade with low-cost economies is threatening jobs in many developed economies and reducing opportunities for less developed economies to grow their industries. Trade is increasing the rate at which we are depleting natural resources. Trade may increase the exploitation of workers and the environment in many less developed economies as multinationals are attracted to them by low wages and taxes. It has increased the gap between rich and poor nations. Because developed and rapidly developing economies dominate the global demand for many natural resources, including foodstuffs, timber, and metal ores, and they have used their purchasing power to force down their market prices.
So, how do we make barriers to trade? Firstly, let's talk about tariffs. Trade barriers are indirect taxes on the prices of imported goods to discourage domestic demand. But imposing them often results in affected overseas countries imposing tariffs of their own in retaliation. We can also use subsidies. These are government grants paid to domestic producers to reduce their production costs, enabling them to sell their products at lower prices than overseas producers. Another option is quotas. This is a limit on the volume of an imported good allowed into a country. In some cases, we could use an embargo. This is a ban on the importation of a product or products from overseas or certain countries. Another thing we could do is use unreasonable quality controls, standards, and licensing requirements for imported products. These make the import of goods into a country more difficult and costly.
What are the arguments for trade protection? To protect infant or sunrise industries. Protecting new firms from overseas competition gives them the time and chance to develop, grow, and become more globally competitive. To protect sunset industries. Protection from overseas competition will help to slow down the rate of decline in and loss of jobs from some major industries, allowing time for other industries to develop to provide new jobs and incomes. To protect strategic industries, such as agriculture, energy, and defense equipment, so that a country is not entirely dependent on such important supplies from overseas countries. To protect domestic firms from dumping. Dumping is a form of predatory pricing. It involves one country flooding another with a product at a price significantly below its market price to force rival producers out of business. To limit over-specialization. Trade barriers can help a country to maintain a wider range of different industries to reduce the risk of its main industry failing or declining due to overseas competition. To correct a trade imbalance. By reducing the amount of imports coming into a country.
What are the arguments against protectionism? It reduces the gains from trade. It restricts consumer choice. It restricts new business opportunities. Inefficient domestic firms protected from overseas competition will continue to be inefficient. Other affected countries will retaliate against trade barriers. Trade liberalization involves the removal of barriers to trade between different countries to improve the global allocation of resources and allow economies to realize gains from increased trade and market access.
Thank you for watching our video. Please like, subscribe, and share. And comment below so we can clarify things for you.